How will you know when you're winning? This is such a great question because, when I start to talk to a lot of agents, there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of anxiety because of fear of missing out and seeing everything else that everyone else is apparently doing. But how will you personally know when you're actually winning? How will you know when you win? And it's such a great question because it really starts to get you to think about what's critically important to you. Recently I was reading up on the French, and one of the sayings that they've got is something called le 2-2-1. And the idea is that for 2 days a week, mum needs to be home by 5 o'clock. 2 days a week, dad needs to be home by 5 o'clock. And then 1 day a week, the nanny needs to be home by 5 o'clock so that mum and dad can go out and have wine and cheese. Now, it's a kind of a really nice idea, but it's about the idea about that elusive balance of what that really looks like for you and what really success looks like for you. Now, to be a great real estate agent, what you want to start thinking about is that you've got to design a business around the lifestyle that you actually want to lead. Now, you can't not prospect, you can't not list, you can't not be there to do a late night deal. I get all of that. But the most important part is for you to start to get some real definition around what that success looks like. Now, to me, that might be things like building an asset base. It might be about having a great family. It might be about experiences that you get to have, holidays that you get to do. Being in a position that when you come into work, you're really purposeful and driven about the outcomes that you want to achieve. Knowing that the best people are the ones that are on the phones, that are in front of people, that are actually booking appointments. And some of the best time managers that we ever meet are mums because they've only got a certain timeline before they need to be back at home looking after kids or being in a position that they want to be home for when their kids get home from school. And the great thing about that is that now all of a sudden in the time that they actually work in the workplace, they really need to make sure that they're highly efficient and effective around what it is that they're doing. So I just have this basic philosophy that every single minute that you're not in front of a customer is another minute that you're not in front of your family, that there's another minute that you're not having a holiday, that there's another minute you're not doing what it is that you really want to do. So to be a great agent, you want to start thinking about how do I actually build this out? Now, what we do in the 30-day intense program, and it's pretty amazing to watch, is that we start to get people to do a call session a day. And that call session a day then leads into week 2, 2 call sessions a day, which then leads into 3 call sessions a day in week 3. And what we find really interesting is that the allocation of time that people were telling me that they didn't have time to do is now really, really easy for them because they can get a call session in a day and then they can get 2 in a day. And ultimately the entire momentum in a business really shifts. And this is the idea about saying that what really counts and what can you strip out. Now, the Pareto principle basically says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. So a better idea here is that what are the 20% of your actions that get the 80% of the results, and what can you do to weed out activities that no longer get you the results or the outcomes? And this is what you really need to start thinking about, because ultimately to know that you're winning, is that about health? Is it about family? Is it about income production? Is it about holidays? Is it about experiences? Is it just a feeling? Now, interestingly enough, Ray Dalio wrote a book called Principles, and in that he said, take the most successful thing that's ever happened to you, break that down and do more of that. So this is the question about amplification. So what I say to an agent is that what is the best day that you've experienced? Now, I'm not talking in terms of listings and sales and income production, but just a day when you really felt that you were on, when great things had happened to you, when you felt productive, when you had a clear head, when you got into the call session and you actually started to book some appointments and felt like you were getting the momentum that you deserved. Well, here is the great idea on that. But what would it take for you to break that down and have a look what happened in the 24 hours previous? So in that 24 hours that happened, what were the things that happened in terms of diet, exercise, sleep? I bet you didn't go to bed on an argument. I bet you resolved those issues. I bet you that you made sure that you woke up, that you read something that inspired you, that maybe you watched a coaching tip or you listened to a podcast, but you did something that actually allowed you to get out there to go and achieve your potential. Now, if you take that and then you amplify it, then all of a sudden you start to make some really small adjustments. So I'm 7 years clean of drinking coffee, and it's kind of an interesting thing because when I would drink it, every so often I would feel a bit heady or maybe not at my best, or maybe I would have what I called burnt energy. Now all of a sudden I don't do that, I don't have that anymore. And so now this is the interesting thing is that, what's the right thing for you to actually just modify small little items of behavior that changes the entire way that you feel. Because what I've learned is that if you feel good, you'll do more of the work. So here's a better question for you. How will you know when you're winning? How will you know when you've won? And start to get clarity about what those goals look like. So then you can really get out there and go and get that level of achievement. If you feel like you're winning, you do more of the work. And more of the work produces more of the income, and more of the income gives you more choices. And more choices gives you more experiences with the people that you love. I really hope that you enjoyed this week's coaching tip, and I look forward to seeing you next week.